So let's summarize the 8 ways that you can have of disease reversal. We've talked today about I showed you the angiograms. You will see that reversing in the stress test. I've shown you the PET scan. We've talked about the ultrasound. We've talked about the pulse volume with the legs, and then the symptoms that disappear of angina, claudication of the leg, and erectile dysfunction. Now, I seem to always finish up with this because for those of you who haven't been to Cleveland, I always like to show what the trees are like in February. And but now that I've actually retired from surgery, part of the Wellness Institute, the budget is more modest, but the morale is really quite high. And one of the things that I've learned since the medical school 56 years ago, perhaps brains are important, but nothing is as important as persistence, 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 best demonstrated by this damsel, Life magazine, 1939, trying to learn how to do the splits. And she stuck with it and stuck with it and stuck with it. And sure enough, the other day, Dr. Shore saw her in downtown Melville, and she got it right. Yeah. Now, so I want to thank you for your patience. And the reason that 16 years since I retired from surgery, I find myself now more passionate than ever about medicine. Why? Because truly we are on the cusp of what could be a seismic revolution in health. When you start eating plant-based, we've talked a lot today about cardiovascular disease, but there are so many other diseases that happen. While you're treating a patient with cardiovascular disease who has hypertension, it's gone. It's diabetes, it's gone. The risk for strokes, gone. The risk for further heart attacks, gone. The same thing seems to be happening with Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, multiple sclerosis, allergies, asthma, kidney disease. The list goes on. The heavens have opened and given medicine the most powerful tool we have ever had in our toolbox. Practically costs nothing because you got to eat. There are no hideous side effects. Yes, it does do away with Pharmageddon, all these drugs. But the only way that this is ever going to take place is we in the profession have the will and the grit and the determination to share with the public. What is the lifestyle? And most specifically, what is the nutritional literacy that will empower them as the locus of control to absolutely annihilate chronic illness? Thank you. I don't know, Steve, do I have time for a question or two?
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely inspirational talk. Love it. My name is Rita Baticha. I'm an integrative and functional medicine registered dietitian nutritionist in private practice. Have 2 questions for you. Why Indians suffer from CVD so much in India and here? And second one, when you mention about the oil, are you also saying that one should not eat the raw nuts and the raw seeds and the naturally occurring oil also?
And your question was?
That's my 2 questions. Should we or shouldn't we eat nuts and seeds?
Yeah.
Because you mentioned about the oil, but they were all different kinds of oil.
Yeah, in my book, I'm very clear about that. For patients who have heart disease, I am still an outlier. I do not want them to have nuts. I don't want them to have nuts or peanut butter or cashew sauces and so forth. But if somebody has a bun and it has a couple of sesame seeds in the crust, I'm okay with that. And your other question was about India?
Means can we eat
India.
1 ounce of raw nuts or seeds or absolutely
Well,
not?
there's going to be there's a difference of opinion here, okay? And let's put it this way. I am delighted to compete our results with anybody on the planet. However, if I am proved wrong, that nuts are okay, I have not hurt my patients. You had a question about India.
India, yeah. Why Indians have so much of disease?
Why do the Indians seem to have? Well, maybe they're more carefully diagnosed. When I was in India in 2000, they are being overrun with heart disease. They do eat meat. They eat all kinds of oil. And they eat, this ghee, clarified butter. Yeah. And again, but you can take an Indian who has heart disease, get him to eat this way, you got him cured.
But what about vegetarians, Indian vegetarians?
Well, vegetarians? Yeah, vegetarians eat French fries. Vegetarians eat oil. Vegetarians eat glazed donuts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
How would you get your DHA and EPA?
Right. How many times have you
Omega.
heard patients going to the emergency room and saying, "My God, help me out. I'm omega-3 deficient." What we like to have our patients do is plenty of green leafy vegetables and put either a tablespoon or two of either chia seeds or flaxseed meal on their cereal. Yeah. Yeah, we have to convert. And we haven't, at least when the persons that I've had it checked, I've not seen deficiency. Yeah. Yes?
My question is, my son, he has oral allergies to all kinds of raw foods, fruit, vegetables, and even when he cooks them, they make his mouth all itchy. So just wondering if you had any ideas on that, because I'd like him to eat healthy, but he's, really can't eat that stuff.
Well, I think I doubt that he's allergic to every single one of plant-based foods. And I'll try to find the ones that he's not allergic to that he accept.
Yeah, no, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Diabetic 19 years. I went on the plant-based food the last 2 weeks. Tremendous pain of 2 weeks of sugar problems, and just was eating tofu mostly, and substances like that, and I just have no idea how to deal with this, and I'm wondering what you think about a diabetic on starting a plant-based diet, which is all sugar, without the protein filter, let's say. Am I clear with what I said?
Well, I think what I'm hearing, is it type 2 diabetes?
Yes.
Yeah. I would avoid the tofu, which is really 40% fat.
Okay.
Was one thing that I was, because remember, one of the things that seems to happen, and this is what I learned from my good friend Neil Barnard, in type 2 diabetes, the insulin can no longer escort your glucose into the muscle cell, because the muscle cell has gotten so filled with fat. But then as these patients begin to lose weight, and even especially when they begin eating plant-based, as the muscle cells' fat becomes metabolized, and it's like glue in the cell. When the insulin comes along to put the key in and turn the lock and escort the glucose in, it can't do it because the fat is the glue in the lock. Once that fat gets metabolized out, then it's easy to turn the key in the lock, glucose, and the diabetes either decreases or it goes away. That's been our experience. How long were you with it?
I was just with it for 2 weeks to start.
Wait, if you've taken 55 or 60 years to make a disease, you might give it a little bit longer. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Esselstyn. I have a quick question. My father had been diagnosed and had a major heart attack at 45. And he passed from heart disease and congestive heart failure. And he has been at a young age through the invasive procedures of stents and, triple bypass. And the doctors really just kept telling him, you got to change your diet, you have to change your diet, but really didn't spend enough time. And really when he didn't listen to them, they kind of gave up on him and just let him go through his daily life. But I just had a question of how, because he was an active smoker, how does smoking and cigarettes or drinking or any other kind of drug affect the artery or the walls of the arteries of the heart? Because they're saying it's a significant percentage of patients with heart disease, and a lot of the doctors, they contributed it to his smoking cigarettes, which is obvious, but how does it affect the arterial
Have you ever
walls?
heard of a patient who had heart disease who didn't smoke? What? What?
No, I've
You never heard of anybody who had heart disease who didn't smoke? Yeah, it happens all the time. See, let's go
Right.
back over this again. The reason your father had heart disease is because he progressively destroyed his arteries with the Western diet. Okay. Now, it is interesting that smoking seems to be a risk factor that will hasten this along. However, to your point, if you look at the Papua Highlanders in New Guinea, and they're interesting because when they get autopsied, over the age of 60, there's no heart disease. What do they eat? 19 different varieties of sweet potato. But they have this habit of smoking this harsh tobacco, always in these communal hutches. So you not only can get all the wonderful effect of your own cigarette, but everybody else's, but no heart disease. All right. So smoking alone won't do it. You have to have the Western diet with it. It's fascinating that eating those 19 different varieties of sweet potato, guess what? They're not injuring their endothelial cells. Remember? Now, I'm not asking you to go to Papua and start smoking. Okay. Sir.
Hi, Dr. Esselstyn. It's such an honor. Around 2012, just shortly after Forks Over Knives came out, thanks to you and Dr. Campbell and actually your son, Rip, I was inspired once I was diagnosed with a cancerous tumor to actually go to Hippocrates, and I successfully shrunk that tumor to nothing. So to be in your presence today is a real honor. So thank you. But my question is, what is the mindset among physicians that they are reluctant to see a patient like myself and not try to learn and progress and take this to the level that you've taken it? I mean, are you up against this all the time? Is that sort of where we're at?
Well, it's the challenges in life that are exciting. And I think by and large, almost all physicians I know take great pride when they're able to help their patients. But what has happened is that suddenly we find ourselves in medical schools that are being funded by the pharmaceutical industry. And for them to suddenly convert and really have a significant curriculum that is devoted to the study of nutrition, it's very challenging. These things are so embedded. It's tough. But the fact that we are getting this published in peer-reviewed scientific literature, because the reason that this is eventually going to prevail is not going to be because of hype and snake oil. The reason that this is going to prevail is because of science. And I wish I was 40 years old to see what happens in the next 30 years, but I'm really quite confident, and I applaud your efforts. I don't want to over my. Come on, I don't want to. Am I in the time of the next speaker? Because this is, look, my father used to say, always be sure you leave when you're most welcome. So. Thank you.